Welcome to Stoic Courage. This isn't a checklist. It's a doorway into what most men miss, because they're too loud to notice. Female desire doesn't arrive with sound. It slips in quietly, changing the air, the tension between words, the silence between glances. She rarely says it, but something shifts. Her laugh lingers. Her presence stays longer than needed. Her gaze almost turns, but doesn't. No flashing signs, just a subtle tilt in gravity. Not for the one who chases, but for the one who senses. Because real desire doesn't announce itself. It whispers, only to the ones still enough to hear. Few men know how to remain still in the presence of beauty. They speak too soon, move too fast, mistake attention for attraction. But there's something magnetic about the man who doesn't reach for what glitters. He notices, but doesn't react. He sees, but doesn't perform. And that stillness? It's not indifference. It's pressure. The kind that builds without sound, until desire forgets how to stay hidden. She leans in, not because he pulled, but because something in her moves toward what doesn't move. Others try to impress. He makes space for revelation. Others try to sway. He lets her feel. He's not the echo she expects. He's the silence she didn't know she craved. There's a moment, short but scorching, when her gaze lingers. Not by accident, but by design. She's not watching your story. She's watching your center. Do you shift, smirk, lower your eyes? Because the real test is always, can you remain still under her attention? Desire isn't given, it's tested. In looks held too long, in questions buried in quiet, in pauses that dare you to speak. And when you do, when you try to name the tension, you lose. Desire doesn't want a man who flinches. It wants one who stays composed while being seen. Her eyes don't ask, do you want me? They ask, can you feel me? And still not flinch? Most men collapse. The Stoic remains. They say intimacy starts with touch, hands brushing, lips meeting in low light. But deeper intimacy begins elsewhere. It starts when a man enters a space and does nothing except remain fully awake. No performance, no proving, no collapse beneath attraction. That presence, it becomes gravity, and gravity doesn't chase. It draws things in, quietly. You want real connection? It's not performance, it's presence, without theater. When your gaze is steady, your presence quiet, your energy says, I am here, but I don't need. That's when awareness becomes erotic. She feels seen, not for what she gives, but for who she is, when she isn't trying. That's not physical, that's spiritual intimacy, born from stillness. That moves nothing, yet shifts everything. You expected signs, a smile, a glance, something obvious. But the truest signal isn't loud. It's her stillness, not shyness, not disinterest, just presence, without effort. She doesn't chase, she doesn't speak, she simply remains. And in that silence, most men panic. They try to fill it, prove themselves, force the moment. But what feels empty is often full of unspoken tension, of guarded longing. Marcus Aurelius once said, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. The Stoic man understands. Silence isn't absence. It's the space where something real begins. He doesn't rush it. He doesn't interpret. He feels. Because when her words stop, that's when she's listening. Not with ears, but with instinct. And only the grounded man will hear what no one else can. The flame doesn't chase the moth. It simply burns, and light draws in whatever's drawn to it. That's how attraction works. for the Stoic. He doesn't move, not because he's cold, but because he knows. Movement isn't always connection. Sometimes it's panic in disguise. So he waits, aware, anchored. He notices every breath, every flicker of her gaze, every shift of her fingers to her lips, and slowly, her body begins to speak. Posture softens, distance narrows, and the air bends. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the cliff. The waves break against it, and it stands." In that stillness, he becomes invitation, not through pursuit, but through presence. And what responds is her. She shifts, adjusts, touches lips that haven't spoken. Desire expresses itself, not in noise, but in motion. And only the man who doesn't interrupt will ever hear it, because silence, when unbroken, speaks the loudest. Real intimacy isn't born in the body. It begins deeper, in the space between what's said and what's sensed, before lips touch, before skin meets. There's something quieter that happens first. She scans not your muscles, but your mind, not your words, but your inner world, not your voice, but the silence you've made peace with. Presence over performance, stillness over seduction. She isn't asking for charm, she's searching for calm. The Stoic doesn't try to impress. He reveals nothing, yet hides nothing. And that paradox, it's what frees her. Because in the presence of a man who has met his own chaos, she no longer needs to hide hers. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So don't reach for closeness. Don't chase the moment. Let it rise. Let it choose you. Because real intimacy doesn't demand, it waits for stillness to make room for it. You don't need to be louder or stronger. You need to be still and stay still. In a world addicted to reaction, stillness is rebellion, not noise, not charm, but quiet presence that doesn't chase, yet never fades. Be the cliff. Let the world be the tide. And if something in you paused here, don't just scroll, mark it, leave a trace, a thought, a comment, a quiet yes. Subscribe to Stoic Courage. Not for more noise, but for more truth. No pressure, just presence.